Even though it's still pretty early into 2025, there have already been a lot of recent Japan updates you really need to be aware of, especially if you plan on coming to Japan in the near future. Things like Kyoto increasing its hotel tax by up to 10,000 yen a night, Japan's tourism numbers skyrocketing, and constant price hikes due to the weak yen are just a few very important updates you need to know about so you don't get caught off guard when you visit Japan. Alright, let's not delay any longer and get straight into this video. If you are trying to plan your trip to Japan and are just really struggling with all the different things you can do here, then look no further as I can help you out personally with my business, Hidden Japan Journeys. After years of living in Japan, I have gained a wealth of knowledge about how to easily get around and help plan your Japan trip as efficiently as possible. If you're interested, you can contact me at my business email, which is located right here, or you can check out my website, which is located in the description below. Japan hit a new all-time high with foreign tourists in 2024. During the second full year since Japan reopened, over 36 million foreign tourists visited, far surpassing the previous record of around 30 million visitors back in 2019. And as I have been saying since the country opened back up only a couple years ago, this number will only continue to increase in the coming years, with the government hoping to achieve over 60 million tourists visiting Japan by 2030. Which is also why I have been constantly saying, if you've been thinking about when is the best time to visit Japan, well, that answer is going to be sooner rather than later, especially before it becomes too late. Let me explain why. Ever since the borders opened only a couple years ago, there has been a consistent flow of complaints about over-tourism causing overcrowding in many of Japan's major cities like Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto. Overcrowding isn't the only issue, as other issues that come with over-tourism includes outright disrespectful behavior, insanely long lines and wait times at famous restaurants, and even reports of fatalities from overcrowding. And this incident of overcrowding is far from an isolated incident, as a survey from Kyoto News shows that over 30% of tourists surveyed also stated they experienced overcrowding issues during their short time in Japan. Aside from the overcrowding complaints, not only did the tourists state that they experienced these issues, but they also stated they were okay with cities and attractions drastically increasing their prices to help filter out the amount of tourists visiting. So with all of these issues in mind, be sure to be prepared for your own overcrowding incidents for when you arrive in Japan, and make sure you plan accordingly around peak times so you can minimize when you will run into all these big crowds. Not only should you prepare for overcrowding, but also be ready for more expensive prices as the demand for all of these famous attractions go up and the crowding only gets worse. And if you're wondering when these price increases will be happening, well, they already have in a lot of instances. And these price increases will almost certainly have an impact on your upcoming trip to Japan. With tourism consistently on the rise in Japan, it should be no surprise that fees also continue to rise across the country, and Kyoto is no exception. As of right now, Kyoto, like most of Japan's municipalities, charges a certain fee, or lodging tax, per person for each night they stay at a hotel. This tax currently ranges anywhere from 200 yen per night for the cheaper hotels up to 1,000 yen per night cap for the highest end hotels. However, starting March of 2026, Kyoto's government will drastically increase this lodging tax from the current 1,000 yen lodging fee all the way up to a 10,000 yen per night lodging fee. Now, before you start going ballistic over this insane lodging tax, let's break down what exactly the costs are going to be. Starting at the beginning, the city will break down this lodging tax into 5 different tiers. The first tier starts at hotels under 6,000 yen per night, which will only be charged 200 yen per night. Next up, stays that are 6,000 to 20,000 yen will be charged 400 yen per night. Hotels that are 20,000 to 50,000 yen will be charged 1,000 yen per night, and rooms that have a nightly rate from 50,000 to 100,000 yen will be charged 4,000 yen per night. And finally, the most expensive rooms that are 100,000 yen or more per night will be charged a maximum of 10,000 yen per night. Now, while this price hike will not be going into effect until March of 2026, it is important to note that this price increase is only the beginning, as more price hikes will definitely be on its way in the near future, especially as Japan tourism numbers continue to skyrocket. So with all of these factors in mind, if you plan on visiting past March of 2026, it might be a good idea to take a look and see if you can book your hotels before this price increase takes effect. Only a few weeks ago, JR East announced that they would be increasing their train fares by up to 7% starting in March of next year. This move is highly unprecedented, as this is the only time the company has ever increased their ticket prices since 1987. With this change, train fares that currently cost 150 yen will jump by up to 10 yen next year, and these fares will proportionally increase as the fare goes up. And yes, you might be wondering why this update even really matters, as it's not like a small 7% increase on train fares is really gonna hurt your budget. But that thought process couldn't be any farther from the truth, as this 7% price increase only scratches the surface of all the other issues that Japan is facing right now. All of these issues, by the way, will have a substantial impact on your trip to Japan, whether it be now or a few years down the line. As mentioned earlier, the Kyoto hotel tax is potentially increasing by 10 times its original amount. Not only that, but if you have been following my channel for a while, you'll also know that groceries and food prices in general have dramatically increased across the country over the past few years. And to make all of these matters worse, one of Japan's most coveted travel passes, the JR Pass, was effectively made worthless after its nearly 100% price increase back in 2023. So with all of this in mind, you can quickly see how all of this is starting to add up in your wallet, where small price increases here and there, when stacked on top of each other, will definitely cause you to get a lot less value for your money, despite the yen being extremely weak. And speaking of all of these rising costs and the weak yen, it is only going to make Japan's already declining birth rate continue to fall, as the cost of living only gets more and more expensive, which in turn will only continue to strain the country's service industry, causing wages to go up to retain the limited working age employees, causing an even further strain on your wallet. So with all of these negative factors at play, it's no longer a question of if your trip is going to be impacted, it's a matter of how much your budget is going to be impacted by all of these changes, as these small price hikes will definitely creep up on your budget expenses and could ultimately really surprise you about how expensive your trip could turn out to be. And I am sure these will not be the only items to experience price hikes, as the country continues to be plagued by the weak yen. So stay tuned to the channel and I'll let you know if any other major developments arise. Whew, that's a lot of serious news. So with all of that being said, let's end this video on a positive note. And that positive note is, it looks like the cherry blossoms will be blooming about on time this year. Just last year, the unusual weather pushed Japan's cherry blossom dates to the right by almost a whole week, with Tokyo itself seeing the cherry blossoms bloom 5 days later than anticipated. However, this is definitely not the case this year, as the sakura are forecasted to blossom right on time. So if you're traveling to Japan near the end of March or the beginning of April, then you'll be in luck, as they should be coming in right about when you arrive. And that's about it for now. And I say for now because as I'm making this video, there have already been some pretty big updates that have started to hit the streets. So be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss all of those important updates, and to ensure you have a perfect trip to Japan. Email me to ask me about my Japan planning services. Like this video if you found it useful. Subscribe for more videos about Japan, and check out my affiliate links below for when you plan your next trip to Japan. Alright, that's gonna do it, and until next time, I'll see you then.